Welcome to Smokin' Eagles Wrench Up. In today's video, we're going to be upgrading the suspension on Carmen Electra, my burnout car. Now, she is easily the heaviest burnout car in the United States, possibly even the world, but it's okay, girl. We love you anyway. Size matters. We all know it. That's why we run big block motors, not them little tiny small block things or V6s and turbos, whatever. Just dump gas right down the gullet. It's fine. Let her eat. But when we're out there in the burnout pit, we're spinning around, all jokes aside, this is a big old boat. I mean, that's why they call them boat cars, right? So what happens is the weight goes back and forth and it gets transferred from wheel to wheel. That bogs my engine down, slows down my tire speed, and we lose tire smoke. Makes it a little bit harder to control in the burnout pit as it's sliding around. Now, I think I tend to do a pretty good job, except for the couple times I hit the wall. Just, you know, let it go. Well, forgive me for that. But that's hard on the suspension, it's hard on the car, and obviously it's hard on me driving, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to lock this suspension. We're going to lock the rear end directly to the frame. So when we're out there spinning around in the burnout pit, the body cannot transfer weight from one wheel to the other, or at least very little weight. That's going to help us keep up our wheel speed and help us make more tire smoke and help us be a lot better in the burnout pit. Now, I do drive this thing occasionally on the street, not daily by any means, but I do like to cruise it, you know, to get a cheeseburger once in a while or down to O'Reilly's to work. We take it to car shows, parades, things of that nature. So I would like it to have a little bit of suspension in the back. So I'm going to make this removable, per se, or undoable, redoable, however you want to say it, temporary, permanent. Yeah. So let's jump right in here and I'll show you guys what my plan is, and you can laugh at me while I try and figure it out, because I'm sure this has never been done before. So I've got the wheel off of Carmen, and if we look behind the drum here, you can see the top of our rear end, our coil spring, our shock back here, and our frame rail. Now, my plan is to take a piece of rectangular tubing. I've got a piece that's almost identical to the frame here, and build us a bracket that'll go from here up to the frame. I'll be able to put a cross bolt through the frame and use a U-bolt at the bottom, and that'll tie everything together. We'll have one on each side, and then when we're in the burnout pit, the car won't be able to transfer that weight. Now, I have measured from the top of the rear end up to the frame rail. It's currently 8 1/4 inches, give or take just a smidgen, carpenter's measurements. When I drop the car down on the ground and have tires on it, that is going to go down because there's no weight on the suspension right now. I don't happen to have the tires that I'm going to run in the burnout pit. I should get those tomorrow. I'll get a couple mounted up. We'll set them on there. We'll drop the car. We'll take our final measurement. And then if we want to drop the back of the car down a little bit or raise the back of the car up a little bit, we can do that with the length of that bracket. Now, let's go over here and I'll show you the supplies that I have, and we'll start fabbing this thing up. So here's the tubing that I dug out and this piece of pipe. Now, what is this, you might ask? No, it is not exhaust. This is actually a chunk of the drive shaft from when the El Camino chucked the drive shaft. Remember this? If you haven't seen that, you should go check the video out. Anyway, I'm going to take this, see this line here? I've got this traced right on here. And just imagine this cut directly in half. That gives us a bracket there, a bracket there. This will rest directly on our rear end with a U-bolt around it, bolt on the bottom, and then the top side will sit right up against our frame rail. We'll put a little tab on both sides that go out like that and put our bolt right down through the center, and we'll be good to go. So first thing I need to do is I need to try and cut this hole out of here, which is also going to cut this in half. I have a hole saw from Harbor Freight, the cheapest ones they make, and I'm going to try and drill a hole in this. It's probably not going to work very well, but I'll set you guys up on the tripod and we'll see if we can figure it out. I just really don't want to have to use a grinder or something, because that's just going to get old fast. Let's get her done. Here we go. I got her clamped down good, boys, here. And I got her up against the pipe in the back here, so got her centered up pretty good. Hopefully we can just go right down through there. And this is actually smaller than the hole we're going for, but it's going to get us close, and then we'll just finish her up with the old flap disc or something once we get her chopped in half. Anyway, here we go. Oh, guess I need to plug in the old drill press here. This thing's actually like a 52 or something, so I like to leave her unplugged. Okay, got that hole. Hey, that's pretty good for the cheapest hole saw on the earth. So I'm gonna move this over onto my bandsaw, and we'll just cut her in half. Okay, so we're back over here. We've got 2 of these, but we're just gonna focus on one because the other one's gonna be an exact match, except offset the other direction for the opposite side. So the first thing I need to do is get this radius to match this radius. And as you can see, that hole saw got us pretty close. Now we are off center a little bit, but that's not gonna matter. I'm gonna cut this off, probably right up in here-ish, and then grind this out with my cutoff wheel and the vise over here. I got that kind of evened up. I'm not measuring nothing. It's just got to be close. It's a burnout car. So when I set this in here, again, our radius is a little too small. I need to start opening it up. So I got a little deburr on my old die grinder here. And I'm just going to start opening this up and just keep test fitting it until we get her where we like it. As you can see, I got this side almost perfect. So now I just need to copy that to the other side, just transfer it over, line her up like that, and start marking where you need to take material out. About like that. Oh, my air compressor shut off. Put that in there. She's almost perfect. I may have taken just a little too much material right there, but it doesn't matter. We're going to weld all this together. At the end of the day, anyway, that is about exactly the way I want it. I'm going to duplicate this on the other one. Then I'm going to cut this in half, and we'll keep moving from there. So this should go on this, like this, over our rear end. So let's go set that on there and see kind of what we got. Now this is just kind of roughed out. We're going to have to do some alterations to this, but essentially the idea is this will be welded onto here, and then we'll have a U-bolt welded onto it. It goes down with a bracket on the bottom side of the rear end, and that'll clamp the rear end to it. Then up here, this will sit directly on the frame. The frame will sit directly on top of this, and we'll have a plate on the side here, plate on the side here with our cross bolt. And then it's pretty much the gist of it. Okay, so I fine-tuned that bottom piece a little bit. And then I got our piece cut for here. So as you can see, I just trimmed that back perfectly. And I trimmed this back just a little bit. See how one side's longer than the other? And then I can put it right in here like this. Rotate it around until it's perfectly straight up and down. Now there is a little bit of a gap there, but remember there's no weight on this suspension. We are going to have to trim that down a little bit. I do think a 3-inch exhaust clamp is going to be plenty strong enough because the weight of the chassis is going to be sitting down on top of this bracket on both sides. And when the car is sliding around to one side and it tries to transfer weight, it's not going to be able to go down. So it's not going to be trying to pick up much either. So I think an exhaust clamp over on these will work. That's what we're going to try. If it's not good enough, you can just yell at me later and be like, it broke because you didn't use a U-bolt like you should have. You used a cheap Chinese exhaust clamp. We'll see. And then you'll know how to build your burnout car. And I'll have to upgrade mine. But anyway, so I'm going to call it a day for today. I'm going to go get some bolts, some hardware, those clamps, eat a bacon cheeseburger, And then I'll meet you guys back here tomorrow morning, and we'll keep fabbing on this. I'll dig the plates out for the sides of this bracket here so we can start welding up tomorrow. Yeah, making some progress. I think this is going to work. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this. Is this a great idea, or is this a terrible idea? I don't know. And we're back. I went to the hardware store, picked up our 3-inch exhaust clamps, picked up our through bolts, and my tires showed up. I got them mounted. You guys don't want to see that. It's like going to the BMV. It's just a big waste of your time, and it's always a struggle. Got them mounted on here. I got these tires off of Jason. These are what he was running last year in the burnout pit on the El Camino. They are considerably smaller than what I had on the front before, but they're closer to the size of what I'm running on the back. I didn't want giant balloon tires on the front and then little itty bitties on the back. So now we got small tires on the front and teeny tires on the back. The guy I got these tires off of on Facebook Marketplace said they were on his Geo Metro, not the rims, the tires themselves. Geo Metros only have 4 lug nuts if they even needed that many. But anyway, we're gonna set this baby on the ground. We'll crawl underneath the car. We'll take the measurement on our frame there so we know how tall to make our bracket. We'll run her back up in the air, and then we'll make both brackets on both sides, get them fabbed up, and get ready to start welding. All right, guys, so we're into the car here, and luckily you fit a little better than I do. Now I gotta try and measure this here, and looks like I've got about 6 1/4, maybe just a little more, maybe 6 3/8. We can always put a spacer on it to make it a little taller, but we can't really make it any shorter. So I think I'm going to go with 6 1/4 and just kind of go from there. So we're just going to go with the 6 1/4. I'm sure that'll be perfectly fine, and if I want to shorten it up, I can always just cut a little bit more off of this before I weld the tabs on the sides of it. So what I've done is I've made us a cardboard cutout. It's essentially an exact template of our piece here. I just laid it over top, traced it, cut it out, and then I measured from the center up 6 1/4. And I put a couple of dots, which are right there. And then I took this over to the car. Turn my light on for you. I held this baby in here, lined up perfectly with the rear end, straight up and down. Went straight up like that to where my dots were. And then I just traced a line there so that I know the radius of our frame rail. So I'm going to cut this out with some scissors. So that essentially will go like that, on there like that, cut off at this, like that, and then it should fit in there perfectly. And then I got our clamps. Now this is a little bigger than 3-inch, so we are going to have to work on these clamps just ever so slightly to get them to go around this. They go around the rear end perfectly, but they're going to need to go around that. And then this obviously will grab the bottom side of the rear end. We'll have our nuts, and that'll tighten it down. Should only use 1 clamp, and it'll get welded to this and to this. Essentially, boom, boom, like so. Now we need to cut this off. It looks pretty good. One side needs notched down for this frame rail. We're just going to do the bad Chad and eyeball it. Perfect. Okay, so I think I got it to fit pretty good. So we'll set this in here. Right like that. This will go in here right like this. like that. Now we'll get an exhaust clamp, one of those exhaust clamps to fit right here. And then everything over here should be pretty good, because what we'll need to do is make one for the other side, and then I'll put the wheels back on the car. We'll set her back down on the ground with these in place. They'll go right up and rest kind of where they need to. I'll climb underneath the car with the welder and just tack it in a couple spots. And then once I do that, then we can figure out where to put our top pieces, because we'll have this all together the way it needs to be. So let me get those exhaust clamps and get them altered a little bit and see if we can get them to fit here. So to open this clamp up a little bit, all I've done is stuck it in my vise. I couldn't use this side because the jaws on the bottom are a little banged up. It's like a 1920, so it's not like it owes me nothing. But stuck it on there. I got a cheater pipe. I'm just gonna stick it right down over that. I put a nut on the end of there just to keep my threads from getting banged up on the end of here. And then we're just gonna give her the whoop, whoop. Then we'll go see if she fits. It fits right around that perfectly. That goes right down where it needs to go. Got a bracket. And it fits. Tighten this side up, tighten this side up. Let's see what she looks like. Yeah, we're gonna have to do that. Not much. We'll just chop just a little bit off of those. So I'll go do that, and I'll be right back. So I got those edges chopped off and rounded them down, and I stayed up above where they're stamped for strength. So now, should be able to set these babies right up on here. And I forgot to bring a socket to snug this up and make sure everything looks good. So I'll go grab that. Good enough. That's what we're looking for. A thing to snug up and look good. We got more threads on the back than we got on the front, but that don't matter. This will go on here right like this. That'll be kind of like that. So it's right up against. At least that's my plan. And then I'll weld this to here. I'll weld that to there. I'll weld it across the back, around the back side. I'll probably weld it up underneath the bottom there, because obviously we need room for this here. And then, yeah, then we'll just weld our plates on the sides here so that it sits right down on there and we can put our through bolt in there. So here we are on the other side. In theory, this should just be a mirror image. That looks like that would fit perfectly in there if it was offset the exact opposite of itself. So that's good. Obviously our exhaust clamp's gonna fit around in the exact same location, which is right here. Our brake line's kind of gonna be an issue, I think. Yeah, see, it's hitting our brake line right there. But this looks like it's gonna be a mirror image exactly as well. So we need to get our brake line situated here. Luckily, whoever did the brake lines on this had a little extra back here. We'll kind of just finesse her out of the way for the minute. Okay, so we got everything fabbed up. Everything seems to fit really well. Now, I'm just going to put everything on the car where I want it. I'm gonna put the wheels back on. We're gonna set her on the ground, make sure everything lines up, looks good. If I can fit under there with a welder, I'm gonna try and tack her together in some spots. Action. Gotcha. Wasn't very happy about it, but we got her. Now we can get that stuff somewhere where we can actually get to it. All right, so we got that all welded up. I cleaned it up just ever so slightly, checked the fitment there, and in order to get it to fit the best, I did cut this tab off the one side. It wasn't really doing anything, but you're better to make your little fab job a little bigger than what it necessarily needs to be, and then adjust accordingly. You can always take metal off, but it's a little more difficult to add it back on. So we got that figured out. Now we need to get our side tabs on here. And I went over and measured roughly 4 inches, about as much room as we have. What I'm gonna do is take a spray paint cap. I'm gonna trace a radius on this so that it's all fancified when it's done. And that'll make it a little easier for us to get it in there. I'd like to take a second and thank my kindergarten teacher for giving me the skills of making 2 templates at once by folding a piece of paper or stacking my templates. Anyway, now we have this and this that can go right on the sides like so. And I can go over there, figure out the maximum height these can stick up and still fit this thing in and out of there, and then we'll mark it and basically cut our plate. Now, we're working on a budget. Found this rusty piece of 3/16 plate. That ought to be plenty thick enough for us. All right, so I got our templates traced onto our plate steel here. Need to get those all cut out. I also got the washer and the nut and the bolts out that we're gonna use for our cross bolts. So I'm gonna get to chopping this out. Here we go. All right, guys, so you saw me bend our plate there because remember, our square stock here is thinner than our frame ever so slightly. So now we can set this baby on here like this. This will go on the front of here like this. It'll slide right up and we'll just put our cross bolt in there. So I've got both of these bent and I've got my hole drilled in the front side, and we're going to use that as a template guide to drill our hole through the back side. So all I've got to do is weld these plates onto our brackets. So I'm going to set the welder up, do that, and then we'll come back here and drill these holes. All right, guys, check it out. This is what we got. These brackets are beefy. They are done. I sprayed a little bit of paint on them, so I think they're gonna work out great. I did have to put the car up and down like 27 times, no big deal. And they're a lot beefier than what they probably need to be, but I'd much rather have them be too beefy than not beefy enough and break in the burnout pit. Now, if you wanna see these babies in action, you've got 2 options. You can go to cletusandcars.com, figure out when the event is. It's May in Indianapolis, Indiana, and you can come see us in person live. We'll be in the pits. You can come hang out, or you can wait for me to drop my video with all my content. I'm gonna have interviews. I'm gonna be checking out burnout cars. We'll be checking out drag cars. We'll be wandering around. Who knows, we may even run into Cleater himself. I don't know, I can't guarantee nothing, but it's gonna be a good time. We'll have dash cams. We'll have cams all over the El Camino, all over the Buick. All kinds of cool content. So make sure you guys check that stuff out. Like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends. Remember, we got merch available on our website if you're interested in any of that stuff. I'll post some other videos around my melon, things we're doing in the shop here. And unfortunately, I ran into some issues with old Carmen there, so I don't have a lot of time. I need to get wrenching on that. So until next time, keep on wrenching. Peace.